These newspaper article readings are not for the faint-hearted or the squeamish. If you're at all sensitive, I might suggest these aren't for you. If in doubt, check the description below. It'll tell you which topics are covered in this particular episode. There's both human and animal suicides, and you heard that right. There's also horrific descriptions of injuries, as well as the deaths of youngsters. So don't do it to yourself if you're prone to nightmares, is all I'll say right now. Not all the articles are horrible. Some of them are uplifting, some of them show incredible bravery and heroism. There are near misses. So these were picked as showing life prior to health and safety, as well as for the crazy and curious details some contain, with other miscellaneous happenings that kind of struck me enough to post the articles to Twitter, despite not having too much relevance to Scotland necessarily. These are worldwide topics, and they didn't have any real connection to the projects that I was working on and researching at the time. I just happened to have come across them by the way, kind of thing. So we'll get into them, shall we? What we're going to do here is we're going to do a lucky dip of newspaper articles to really mix them up a wee bit, because while I'm doing the researches, I'm obviously coming up with the same kind of terms and things. So we'll mix them up even further. So to that end, I have all of the newspaper titles and dates of the articles.
Let's see what the hat has for us today. What we're starting with. Firstly, we have the Greenwich Telegraph and Clyde Shipping Gazette for the 7th of April 1906. Let's see what the Greenwich Telegraph has to offer. All right, so we have a boy killed at Dunoon. A distressing fatality occurred in Dunoon yesterday afternoon. A party of workmen were engaged in the erection of a new flagpole up on the top of Castle Hill when the guy rope gave way, with the result that one of the sheer legs supporting the pole swung around and struck a schoolboy named John Gibb, aged 13 years, on the head, killing him on the spot. I mean, that's a freak accident, that, isn't it? That's not really anybody's fault, I don't think. Perhaps nowadays people wouldn't be able to get close to these kind of works. Maybe some kind of barrier would be set up so that people couldn't be injured by anything that happens. I'm not entirely sure that health and safety would have helped with that one, but yeah, that's just a horrible freak accident, that for wee John Gibb, I think. Well, we'll see what we have next. Not a very positive start for this episode. See if we can get something a little more positive. So we have the Galloway News in Kirkcudbrightshire Advertiser for the 8th of September 1882. A wee bit of an older article, this one. This is entitled Wonderful Births. We propose to give here a notice of some of the most remarkable instances of numerous births which from time to time have been chronicled. It will appear almost incredible that so many as 20 children should have sprung from one mother, but among the cases enumerated here will be found some very much more remarkable in point of number. There is a singular instance of numerous births to be found in the English Causes Celebre, where Colonel James Turner, in his defence, speaking of his wife, says, "She sat down, being somewhat fat and weary, poor heart. I have had 27 children by her, 15 sons and 12 daughters." Some remarkable instances have been chronicled at different times in the Gentleman's Magazine. In the year 1736, we find a notice of the birth of the 35th child by one husband of a woman in Vere Street, London. In 1743 is recorded the death of Agnes Melbourne, aged 106, who had been the mother of 30 children. In 1738, we are told of a Mr. Thomas Rogers, a change broker who had by his wife 29 children born and christened. On July 31st, 1781, it is mentioned that a man and wife at Kirktonlin Moor in Cumberland, together with their 30 children, the youngest of whom was between 2 and 3 years old, walked to church to the christening of their 31st. In Collectania Topographica is noticed the case of Thomas Greenhill, surgeon to the Duke of Norfolk in 1698, who petitioned the Earl Marshal that, in consideration of your petitioner being the 7th son and 39th child of one father and mother, your grace would be pleased to signalise it by some particular remark or augmentation in his coat of arms, to transmit to posterity so uncommon a thing. It may be observed that the confirmation of the arms contains no reference to the fact. A still more wonderful instance is given in the same work of a weaver in Scotland, who had by one woman 62 children, of whom 4 daughters and 46 sons lived to grow up. This account is given on the authority of several credible witnesses. In each of these cases, it will be observed that the children were all born of the same parents. 2 other cases are recorded, slightly different. One of a man who had 87 children by 2 wives, of which 69 were by the first, 18 by the second. Another who had 72 children by 2 wives, one of whom was a mother of 32 children. Perhaps still more wonderful are the cases of the number of children which have been born at a single birth. It is stated in the Gentleman's Magazine for March 1798 that in the commune of Vershov, department of Pas-de-Calais, the wife of Pierre-Francois de Seine had 6 children at birth, 3 boys and 3 girls. They were all born alive but died soon after. Dinora Salviati, wife of Bartholomeus Frescobaldi, a member of an old Florentine house, gave birth to 52 children, in all of whom never less than 3 were born at a time. In Aubrey's Natural History of Wiltshire, we find an account of an inscription at Wishford Magna to Thomas Barnum and Edith, his wife, who died in the years 1469 and 1473, respectively. Mrs. Burnham had 2 children at one birth the first time, and after an interval of 7 years, she had as many as 7 children at once. It is said and is recorded in the parish register that all the 7 children were brought together to the front of the church and there baptized. And that crazy article comes from the Galloway News and Kirkcudbrightshire Advertiser for the 8th of September, 1882. The entire way through that, I was just thinking, oh my God, the poor women, that they were just, I mean, these women were birthing machines. That's really what their life seems to have been devoted to. And I mean, forgetting everything that comes with being pregnant so often. I mean, that's years of being pregnant, plus having to do the hard bit at the end of actually getting them into the world so many times. I mean, leaving that aside, they had to bring up these children. They had to do for them. They had to be able to fund and feed and clothe all these children. Just the hassle of that boggles my mind. One child would be too much for me to handle. These women were heroes. Yeah, they're just heroes in my mind. I can't imagine the stress that their lives were filled with. And there we go. If we're to believe these reports, yeah, heroes, every single one of them. Okay, we'll have another. The Dundee Evening Telegraph for the 22nd of April, 1907. Let's see what the Dundee Telegraph has. This one's entitled "The General's Escape." Saved from death by railway porters, hurrying for a train. Dated Paris, Sunday. General Baillond, who was recently transferred from the eastern frontier to Montpellier, owing to his fiery speech referring to the hope of recovering Alsace-Lorraine from Germany, had a marvellous escape from death in Montpellier railway station yesterday. The general, who was hurrying to catch the Bordeaux Express, carried a satchel slung from his shoulder by a long strap. To save time, he ran across the line instead of using the footbridge, and just as he reached the metals, the strap caught his leg, and he fell on the track in front of the express, which was only about 50 yards away. General Baillond scrambled to his feet, but stumbled and fell again, and would inevitably have been cut to pieces but for the help of two courageous porters. The men jumped on the line and snatched the general from the track just as the express dashed by. Part of the general's clothes was torn by a projecting part of the engine. And that's from the Dundee Evening Telegraph for the 22nd of April, 1907. Oh, I hope he recompensed those porters. I hope he gave them, I don't know, some kind of like crazy reward for that, because they really did save his life. I think the very fact that his clothes had been torn would have left him with evidence after. You know how if something really sudden or crazy happened, you think, did I really just see that? Did I really just witness that? Was I actually just a part of this thing? The torn part of his clothing would have been a reminder to him that, yeah, this actually happened and those guys really did save your life. And I would hope that he was grateful enough for that to I don't know, even just put them up for some kind of award or employees of the decade or something. Yeah. I don't know if they did, but as a general, I'm sure he had the means to be able to make sure that they were rewarded, I think. We'll have a last one. Chance a last one. See what kind of article it is. We have the Edinburgh Evening News for the 6th of October, 1904. See what we have? So this wee article will end us, I think. It's entitled "Train Wrecking for Fun." At Roanoke in Virginia, a little girl named Gussy Loving has been arrested for placing an iron bolt on the railway metals, which derailed a train. The engine and a goods train and mail car went down the embankment and several officials were injured, but the passengers escaped. Asked why she placed the bolt on the line, the child said, "Just for fun, to see a train smash." That comes from the Edinburgh Evening News for the 6th of October, 1904. And what the hell? Did she grow up just to become some kind of crazy sadist or psychopath or something? What kind of person doesn't understand the consequences of a train smash? I mean, I think even young children can understand that, well, that might be quite the spectacle to witness. There's going to be people injured. There's going to be people hurt from that. There's going to be just a terrible aftermath. That Gussy Loving girl, I wasn't actually able to find more on her because I just assumed that she was going to have a lifetime in the news for just randomness. I mean, if that's how she started out, I didn't find any former articles. I don't know if it was maybe that they had her under a different name, because that's quite an excellent name, Gussy Loving. But yeah, I wouldn't want that to be my kid. Nope. And pretty sure that once her parents were informed, she's going to have been reprimanded to the max. I mean, if the parents weren't held for some kind of fine just off the back of this, I think they'd have got lucky, because I feel like they'd have gone to the parents for justice on this, not being able to really hold a small child responsible in a legal sense. Although we've heard of children in court throughout this series, I guess. But I think the parents would likely have ended up having to deal with this incident and the reparation, some kind of reparation as well, in terms of, I would assume, likely a fine rather than jail time, because it wasn't them that actually did it. Craziness. And on that note, we're going to end this episode. So we may see you for the next one. Take care.